Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Willie Lawson. I trust that you are well. Welcome to the Morning Report. The Morning Report is a production of FightbackMedia.com, 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 and FightbackMediaTV.com. We want you to have had a great weekend. To be open with you and honest with you, it was kind of a weekend for me. A couple of weeks ago, on October 11th, a dear friend of mine that I've had for 40 years passed away, and we went to his memorial service this weekend in Delray Beach. My wife went. My wife went with me. It's a 4-hour drive, and my initial plan was to drive down really early Saturday morning, like at 5, go to the funeral, get back in the car, and drive back. I think when I was younger, like 30 years ago, I would have been able to do that, no problem. But so we obviously we didn't do that. My wife went with me, and we stayed the night in Boca, and went to the service, and then came back that afternoon. And as I'm driving back, I'm feeling fine, but I'm like, there's no way I'd have been able to drive down there, get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, drive down there, go through all that emotional turmoil, and turn on and drive back. Them days is over. But what it reminded me, with all the drama and all the hurt feelings and all the the feelings about what happened is, listen, we all get into arguments, disagreements, fights with people who are dear to us. But at some point, we have to forgive them. We just have to. We can't let it get to the point where they die, and all the things that were good, all the things that were great even, and fun, and beneficial, all go up in a puff of smoke because you had a disagreement about something. Especially after, golly, 40 years. My friend Danny, near the end, and as it turned out, near the end of his life, would express to me on a regular basis that my politics were wrong. My politics were wrong, and he would express it in no uncertain terms because that's what this guy was. And unfortunately, he would do it over social media, and sometimes really long, drawn out phone calls. And it really got to the point where I decided, I don't want to fight with you about this. I don't want to fight with you about Trump. I just don't. So I cut him off for a while. Because my thought was that I'd rather maintain the friendship for real than to get into this tit-for-tat nonsense about Trump. So, about a year ago, I was sitting here in front of my computer, and I thought, you know what? I need to check on Danny. So I sent him an IM, which I knew that he would get, and I just said, "What's up?" Now, the first time I did that, there was no answer. So I waited a couple of days. I did it again, and then he told me about that he was sick. He's been sick for a long time, really. Some previously undiagnosed gastric problem that was exacerbated by bad behavior on his part, ended up killing him. So we talked. We had a number of phone conversations. He didn't live far. We lived in the town I live in. Lived in Tampa. Didn't live far from me, so I went to visit. and we spent about 4 hours together. I helped him move some stuff to his car because he was going to move to the place where he passed away. And I helped him load his car up because he was, like, I'm not Adonis or Hercules, but he was really too weak to move some of the heavy stuff. So I helped him with it, and we talked. And with all the disagreements that he had with our regular friends, our friend group, I looked at him and I said, Danny, you and I are okay. You and I are fine. Now, the problem that you have with this person or that person or or the other person doesn't have anything to do with us. You and I are fine. So what I am grateful about is that Danny and I knew that he and I were fine. 40 years is a lot to toss away over crap anything. His ex-wife was there. And they had actually been divorced more than 20 years, so she was there. Played clarinet. It was beautiful. But, folks, remember to prioritize things. Prioritize people over policy, over politics. Prioritize people. We don't get many friends in this life. We don't, at 63, I realized we only get a few. You don't get tons of friends. You don't. Even if you're around a lot of people all the time, or a lot of people know you, you don't get a lot of friends. Friends are people who know you. Friends are sometimes people know you better than you know you. Treasure them. Even if you fight with them. That was my weekend. All right, let's get to this. Let's go ahead and get to the stories. There was a man who was convicted of murder in Venezuela who was reportedly discovered living where? In state-funded housing on Cape Cod. Nice. And Massachusetts, after he illegally crossed the U.S. border. And you remember that Trump said that Mexico was not sending us their best and brightest. They were sending us their murderers and rapists. Well, this dude wasn't from Mexico. He was actually from Venezuela. And he wasn't a rapist as far as we know, but he was indeed a murderer. The fugitive, Giordano Gatopo Lopez, who was 38, has been wanted since 2006. And this is what he was wanted for reportedly violating his sentencing conditions. He was living in an emergency shelter set up for migrants and other homeless families, according to ICE. The base also houses military families, including members of the Coast Guard. He was arrested without incident. Gatopo Lopez entered the United States at the Eagle Pass, Texas border crossing in July. ICE said he was processed and given a notice to report himself to immigration in 60 days, but never showed up. What? What? The dude who was a murderer in Venezuela had broken God knows what other laws, was given a notice. Hey, here's this. Be at an immigration office in 2 months. See ya. Go off with you now. He didn't come back? What kind of moron develops a policy that lets someone into your country, hands them a note? Hey, take this note right here. Wait. Take this note right here, and then come back in 60 days. Okay? After you've crossed the border illegally. Here. And they go, okay. Anyway. In March, 25 investigators reported on an increase in foreign fugitives found hiding in Massachusetts. According to ICE, 37 violent offenders have been captured this year, including 10 people wanted in their home countries for murder. This investigation this year found that the Boston's ICE office arrested and removed several people wanted for murder, as well as others facing charges including human trafficking, we told you, drug trafficking, of course, and attempted murder. In August, we reported how a former Brazilian military police officer who was convicted of multiple murders and sentenced to over 200 years in prison was arrested in New Hampshire. New Hampshire. The criminal, Antonio Jose de Abreu Vidal, too many names. These guys got too many names. Was previously the subject of an active Interpol Red Notice. In June, he was convicted of 11 murders. This June, he was convicted of 11 murders, as well as charges of attempted murder and physical and mental torture, and sentenced to nearly 276 years in prison by a criminal court in Brazil. The crimes occurred in November of 2015. The crimes became known as the Curio Massacre after the name of the neighborhood in Brazil where they occurred. Are you kidding me? And so, when Mayorkas says that the border is not wide open, it's at least a little bit open, right? When you get somebody who gets found in New Hampshire, who's committed 11 murders, convicted of 11 murders in their home country, and they get in and they get all the way to New Hampshire from the Texas border, and you're telling me that the borders aren't wide open? It's Beano. Borders in name only. Are you serious? And we're supposed to just buy this, right? We're supposed to just take this like, oh, yeah, it's Maria and Jose who are just trying to find a better life. You get that narrative and you get to, well, this land belonged to them anyway. In New Hampshire? No, it didn't. In California? Around the time that the United States started to move that direction, there were 3,000 Mexicans in what we call California now. 3,000. That's a pretty big place for 3,000 people. So there were hardly any people there at all. And there were only 3,000 Mexicans. So it's hard to say, oh, this belonged to Mexico, and to have this narrative that, that white people came in and just shoved all those people out. It was the second Bataan death march. It was not. It was wide. There were swaths of this continent that were wide open. There were hardly any people here at all. So when Mayorkas says that the border is secure, know this: it is not. It is absolutely not secure. My name is Willie Lawson. This has been The Morning Report. The Morning Report is a production of FightbackMedia.com, 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 and FightbackMediaTV.com. So until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, y'all take care of yourself. We will see you when we see you. Bye-bye now.